Beautiful Sunday afternoon in June. And as the tours were greeted by two bathing beauties, a turned-on radio forecasted gloom and utter chaos for the next day, Monday. For a change, the weatherman was right. And just for the many visitors to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the weather lived up to its expectations. The Tour Kentucky Tour, a 5-day drive through scenic and historic Kentucky, was held between June 23rd and 27th, 1969. The popularity of the tour is attested to by the fact that teas from Maine to California were present. The rain, though dampening a tea or two, did little to the bunch eager to get started on the 500-mile tour. Lined up on the access to I-65, 26 Model T Fords and a few pace cars awaited the arrival of a state police car escort. Some 10 miles from Elizabethtown, it was on to Hodgenville and the National Shrine honoring the great emancipator. This portion of the farm on which Lincoln was born is visited annually by thousands. And this group was no exception. Here, inside a granite building, is the cabin that was the Lincoln's home. An administration building offered a wealth of Lincoln lore, and it received almost as much attention as the comfort stations. After a few hectic moments locating a couple of lost children, and a short period of minor car adjustments, it was on to the next stop. The sun almost tried to come out here for a few minutes while the cars were leaving Hodgenville, but the clouds won out, at least for the moment. Little time was lost passing through Lebanon. No breakdowns so far. A stop on the east end of Lebanon for nourishment. The brown baggers picnicked in the cars while the more affluent partook of substance inside the restaurant. This was the time for the jokers of the bunch to find out who had the best sense of humor. Nothing serious, just a slight malfunction. Here was fought one of the decisive battles of the war between the states. Looking over the surrounding area, one could almost imagine the blues and the grays engaged in a great battle. Now just 10 miles to our night's destination, straight down US 150. This sign in the center of Danville, Kentucky, informs visitors that here is where the historic walking tour started. Nearly all of the Model T folks went on the tour of Kentucky's first capital. Here is where the Commonwealth's founders met and drafted Kentucky's first Constitution. Oh, if these walls could talk, what they could reveal. Here, Ephraim McDowell astounded the medical world of his time by performing the first abdominal surgery on a lady who had traveled 60-odd miles on horseback to come under his care. Tuesday morning, and it was up and at 'em, and get ready to go. Pioneer Playhouse Village in Danville, the group gathered. After a nose count and trip through the village, it was on the road again. Kentucky, not unlike other states, has its share of unusual town names. Crab Orchard, for example. After passing through this little town, the road became more hilly and the pace slackened somewhat. Modern traffic got a bit thicker, too. Now the touring cars were spread out for several miles. The slower ones began to drop back as the more spirited ones pushed on. A Kentucky railroad crossing, a study in Model T suspension. Hang on as we hit these tracks. Watch that the suitcases don't fall off the running board. What a beautiful spot, and not a cloud in the sky. No sooner spoken than clouds began to form, and within minutes the heavens opened up. Raincoats, ponchos, plastic tarps, and whatever was handy was pressed into service. To blazes with the lunch, don't let the coils get wet.
Gloom and misery everywhere, stormy weather. Just can't get my poor self together. I'm weary all the time. All weary all the time.
Between Barberville and Middlesboro, one can enjoy scenes like these. The end of our second day on the road, and in the large hotel lot in Middlesboro, the cars were parked with ease. A few hardy souls, restless after checking in at the hotel, decided to go for a ride. Over Cumberland Gap from Kentucky into Virginia, and then to Tennessee, where the town of Cumberland Gap is nestled deep in the shadows of the mountains. After such a climb, a shortcut back to Middlesboro was considered, only to be rejected. What a water wheel! Active until just a few years ago, the old Black Box Mill is now a tourist attraction. Are you sure this is 1969? Cumberland Gap's filling station seems to have stopped the clock. Better check the tires before the trip back, don't you think? For only the very stout at heart was the drive to the pinnacle. This climb of 2,000 feet and 2.5 miles is really a band burner. From the pinnacle overlook, the view of Middlesboro and the surrounding area is truly breathtaking. While the potboilers cool off, several of the tours take a breather and enjoy sightseeing and pleasant talk. On the way down from the pinnacle, it was easy on the brakes, fellow. Model T reverse, used properly, saves the brake band from an early demise. Yep, the camera crew were chicken. They climbed up and down modern. With the job well done, it's back to the hotel, where the fiery steeds were given the necessary care in preparation for the next day's journey. As the morning fog rose, up to our ankles, the mechanical marvels of yesteryear fired up, and one by one, these snorting monsters, their occupants still half asleep, headed west out of Middlesboro. The tour now heads for them thar hills and some of the most difficult driving of the tour. A 2,000-foot climb in 8 miles. With undying determination and with their reputations at stake, these hunks of early Detroit iron wound their way up the tortuous one-lane road to the Tennessee state line. As each car, in its turn, passed the checkpoint, it was soon determined that every T had made the climb without difficulty. Fearless leader has an embarrassing moment. The tour's guiding star, Fearless, whose car should have been in perfect shape, fell victim to an uncompromising situation. An emergency roadside transplant of a fractured universal joint, accomplished within 30 minutes, got the patient back on the road and the tour continued. So far, the transplant is showing no signs of rejection. Cumberland Falls was the scheduled lunch stop for Wednesday. As the temperature went up, this sight cooled the senses at least. The falls, often referred to as the Niagara Falls of the South, showed evidence of the past 2 days' rains as the tours lunched on the nearby shore. The road between Cumberland Falls and General Burnside Island State Park followed the ridge tops, twisting and turning all the way to a much welcome rest stop. Situated in the middle of Cumberland Lake, this island proved a respite from the rigors of the arduous journey and gave all a chance to relax a little before stopping for the day at Somerset, just 8 miles distant. As the sun sets on Somerset, we leave our weary traveler. Until the next morning when we're on the road. En route to the cave area was summer shade and a comfort stop for some. Needless to say, with the temperature pushing 100, summer shade was an apt name. While left behind by the temperature of the day, this town only revealed the rapidity of the touring cars. Why its name? No one knows. Made it. Situated high on a hill was the day's destination. It was unload, register, and on to the pool. A different mode of transportation proved enjoyable to both adults and children. Just one of the many attractions at the recreational area. While many just took it easy, relaxed, and enjoyed the fruit of the vine, many saw fit to make a few minor adjustments and repairs to their machines for the last leg of the tour to take place the next day. Not to be overlooked on Friday was this national park, one of the wonders of the world. Miles and miles of subterranean caverns, some still unexplored, lie in this, the center of Kentucky's cave area. Thousands visit here each year, so why should members of the Tour Kentucky Tour be an exception? To the uninitiated, the sights were awe-inspiring. side journey by 2 tours to Pig, Kentucky required crossing the Green River on the ferry. Sort of brings back memories, doesn't it? Home is where you hang your hat, and as the Tour Kentucky Tour proceeded back to Elizabethtown, a few realized that they had driven over 500 miles. Tired, happy, and loaded down with souvenirs and memories, each on their own chugged back to the starting point. Well, we made it. Not a soul dropped out. The welcome sign was out as we returned. All in all, everyone on the tour enjoyed the trip. Many friendships were formed, and of course, many tips were swapped. Kentucky welcomes you all back, anytime.